welcome to an extremely special, amazing episode. I'm saying that it's amazing up front. I know it's already amazing and it hasn't happened yet because we have with us today, joining the Friday Night Movie family, Talia Osteen. And you may know that we think Talia Osteen is awesome because a few weeks ago we were talking about both her fantastic film, Sex Appeal, which is on Hulu, which everybody should be checking out. This is a terrific movie. And as folks know, we've been really focusing a lot in the last couple of years on the way Jewish stories are represented in film. And her short film, Shabbos is absolutely hilarious and just a perfect representation of Jewish life in so many ways. And we are so thrilled that she's willing to spend a little time with us today. And we're going to get to know her a little bit and ask her about all her work. Talia Osteen, welcome to the Friday Night Movie Podcast.
Thank you so much. That is such a flattering intro. I feel like if I ever need a little pick-me-up, I'm going to call you and be like, can you just do that intro that you did again for me?
Well, I was doing my good research and following your Instagram today, and you posted something that I really identified with. You posted something today where you asked people if they were optimists or pessimists. I didn't know that you yourself was an optimist at the time, but I bravely clicked optimist.
Me too.
And
nice.
I try to be relentlessly optimistic. Let's start there. Optimism. Yeah. What makes you an optimist?
You know, I feel really lucky that I think I was just born that way. And I was born into like a wonderful, warm family that just always made me feel very supported. And so I think, you know, I believe in the power of thought and energy and like setting your intentions. And so I think if it's been harder in the last couple of years with the pandemic and had some personal losses and all of that. So it's not to say that I'm always like, you know, all super positive all the time, but my baseline is pretty hopeful. And I think that actually comes out in all the stuff that I work on.
You can really feel it in your work, and I love that you said that your optimism in some ways is rooted in your family, because I would say if my sisters and I have one person in our life that is the picture of optimism, it's our mom. Cuban refugee when she was 7 years old. Mom has had so many strange medical things happen in her life.
There's so many strange things.
Loses her iPhone charger everywhere she goes, but always
her entire computer. Leaves an entire computer on an airplane. Just walks off the airplane.
So many times.
Literally same. And that was when I was like, I think I have ADD and maybe should go see somebody about this.
But she'll get it back. Like she'll like be like, glass is half full. I'll get that computer back. And
funny that you mentioned ADHD. I just, after many years on this planet, went and got a full neurological workup to see if I have it. And the conclusion was either he has ADHD or he's just really tired.
That was like presents much the same way.
He did fall asleep during the test, so
I did fall asleep.
That tells you something.
I was the first person they'd seen nod off during the test. So, speaking of mothers, you are a mom, and one thing I am so grateful to my mother for is I feel like if there's anything menschy I've ever done in my life, it's because my mom is like the basis of that. So you're the mom of a son as well, who's in your movie, which is so cool.
He'll kill me for it one day, but yes.
We love our mom on this show. We love moms. Two of our hosts are moms. Tell us a little bit about mom life. You have this creative, incredible life doing all of these different things, and you're raising a son in this world. What's like your recipe? How are you going to go about raising your mensch?
Well, I learned a lot from my parents. I'm very close with my mom, and she. It's funny because in the movie, in Sex Appeal, the moms are like very, very open about sex with their daughter and have open communication, and people are like, people aren't like that. It's like, but it's not true. My mom was actually very open with me, not to the extent in the movie, but we had such open communication, and I knew I could trust her. And I was a goody two shoe who like never broke any rules. And like, she would have known if I was having sex, because I would have gone and asked her to help me get on the pill. It was that kind of an open communication. And so I want my son to feel safe coming to me with anything. And so, it's funny because the other day most of our arguments are around screen time. And so when I turned off the video, he was very upset. And he had a little bit of a tantrum. And then he looked at me and he was like, "Do you not love me anymore?" And I was like, "Elliot, I will always love you. I don't love the way you're behaving, but nothing you could do would make me stop loving you." And so later we got again over video. He was like, "This is the most boring day. I don't want to be around you, but I still love you." And then like closed the door.
So there you are. You're modeling.
That's how you know you're doing something right.
Go. Perfect. That's right. You're upset with the thing that I did, but you still love me, and I still love you, and that's always going to be solid. Yeah. So it's being a boy mom too is like a whole other thing. I had 2 younger brothers growing up, so I'm used to the boy energy. But yeah, he's nonstop.
It's nonstop.
Lily has 2 nonstop boys.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
The 5-year-old is very nonstop. It's wild.
Yeah, it was. There's no moment of like, oh, well, maybe I'll sit down and read. Now he's into Legos, which helps. But yeah, it was just like the first few years of his life were just constantly following him around to like prevent him from running into a street or like, breaking his arm, or like he has no sense of danger or fear.
My friend said it best when it was like 11 o'clock at night and he was still going so strong. And my friend was like, "It's like someone put a quarter in him." Yeah. And I was like, that describes it perfectly. It's like someone just added money to the machine.
I've also seen, Lily, I've seen your kid run at full speed into a wall, bounce back, and the water, keep going.
And the water before he knew how to swim. Lily's kid gives us a lot of anxiety.
Jumped right into the pool, didn't know how to swim, fully clothed.
So we're going to dig into sex appeal in a moment. But I want to take one more detour before I hand it over to Lily to kick that part off. You're a musician. We love musicians. We talk a lot on our show about music and movies. You're in the Wellspring. People should check out the Wellspring. By the way, El Narafanala like gets in my heart. That song that you
beautiful
is really beautiful. What's your favorite? This is like a quick one. What's your favorite music moment in a movie ever? Do you have one? Like for me, it's always in That Thing You Do when they hear their song on the radio for the first time and they run around. Like for me, that will forever be my favorite moment of the screen and music ever. Do you have one that comes to your mind, being a musician who's also a filmmaker?
I mean, for me, it was like I have my like guilty pleasure that I grew up watching over and over again, and then like making my brother lift me up from is the sequences in Dirty Dancing.
Oh,
like
absolutely. 100%.
I would practice on a bench pretending I was walking across that log, and then I'd have him, like, he's younger than me, and he would just kneel and like try his best to lift me up to do that lift at the end that Patrick Swayze does with her. So that's like a favorite.
That's awesome. We know.
I mean, it's no one
is qualified for that in our family. Well, your film Sex Appeal is on Hulu right now. And another one of our favorite, you like in the Venn diagram of almost every one of our favorite topics, because very early on we talked about teen movies and teen sex comedies, and I can speak for all of us when I say we feel like this is such a great one for this time, and that you represent sex in such an interesting way. The conversations between the moms and Avery are so, I think they're such great examples. So we really want to get in and learn more about the film. And again, reminding people it's on Hulu. Everyone should watch it. Lily, take it away.
So we've talked so much. This is probably my favorite genre of movies. I have seen them all, like all the ones that even no one watches on all the streaming services. I adore this genre so much, but it's extremely difficult to do. I think that the really great ones set the bar very high. Mm-hmm. And part of the issue is that I have now, maybe as a parent, like when I want to show this stuff to my kids, and I know Shai is dealing with that more with an 8 and 10-year-old, is that some moments and a lot of our favorite ones don't hold up for 2021.
They really don't.
Yeah. So we basically, there's there's many examples. So what attracted you to this story? What appealed, pun intended,
well done,
about this story? Mm-hmm. And how did you feel about tackling this genre in 2021? I mean, now it's 2022, but you took this on, I assume, at least a year ago. So in the last few years, how did you feel about that?
I came onto the movie fast. The script existed already, and one of the producers saw my short, the Shabbos Goy, and asked me to pitch for this movie. And when I read the script, I was like, I have to be the one to make this movie. Like I come from being an executive and producing, and I've read a ton of scripts, but as soon as I read it, I could see it, and I related to it so much on multiple levels, but in, having a mom who was very open with me about sexuality and having positive experiences because of that. And then, I legit did practice with my best guy friend. But for me, it was more trying to figure out my sexuality because, I don't know, the labels are weird, but I'm more gay than straight by like a lot. But I wasn't sure, because I always had crushes on boys too. And I was trying to figure that out. And so anyways, and that because of the trust between us, that was actually a really wonderful experience, and the safety of that. But there was a lot of humor in it as well. And so, that drew me to it. But the main thing really is the way that it subverts what I grew up seeing in these movies, because we had a clip of 16 Candles in the movie where she's watching for research, and as she watches it, the line was, "Well, that's rape." And they were like, we can't license that. Like, they won't license it to us if you call it rape. And I was like, well, then we shouldn't show it, because I don't want to show it without calling it what it is.
Right.
Because he sends, the guy that we're supposed to want her to end up with, like, sends her off blackout drunk with someone she doesn't know, for him to lose his virginity. It's like,
and it's supposed to be heroic.
Yeah. It's
a heroic moment, which is awkward.
Yeah, very, very awkward. So, we've come a long way since then, but there are even in some of the more modern ones. The truth is, I never saw a movie that centered a young woman's exploration of her sexuality and centered like her experience and her pleasure, and didn't shame her for wanting to have sex. Didn't shame any of the characters who haven't had sex. It just kind of meets everyone where they are, and without judgment. And I think if we can put it out there into the world that, like, it's all okay, it's whatever you are comfortable with and is healthy for you and respects the feelings of both people involved, then, that's a net positive for sure.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think we all picked up on those things, and I think the movie's great and it's funny, and the chemistry between the main actor, all the actors, and the casting is fantastic. And the 3 women who played them, those are incredible actresses. So the whole thing is great. But then we all really touched on the fact that, having grown up with such famous teen movies, and even we saw Animal House as kids, even bringing that in that
our parents were very, very loose,
liberal about the movie watching rules. But
those movies also in that time weren't seen as misogynistic.
No, not at all. Exactly, which is wild to us now, being able to bridge both worlds. But then something that also struck me was how all the men in the movie, boys, men, teenagers, whatever, all the guys in the movie are very open and vulnerable and communicate their emotions. And I just think that that's a fantastic example. And you don't see that ever. So
I know I loved that as well. It subverts the way we usually see the woman portrayed in a teen sex comedy, but likewise for the guy, he's not like, he's the one who's like, I'm saving myself for love, for real love. And like, I know, like, I grew up with guy friends that felt that way, and I've never seen it portrayed in film. And so, you know, it's we're not making it up. These guys exist, and it's great to encourage men to be like. That's another thing with raising my son. Like, he's very good at expressing his feelings, and at
naming his feelings.
He can name his feelings.
Name his feelings. And such a great bit throughout the movie.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, Tate. So the writer did an amazing job with it as well, and then the cast really brought so much to it. And I'm glad you noticed their chemistry. They are actually a couple in real life now. So,
that is so
they did have a lot of
cute.
chemistry. Yeah. Even though we had to do chemistry reads over Zoom instead. Normally, you would bring the actors together.
That has to be so hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was very strange,
really difficult,
but. Their chemistry was palpable even there, so it worked out.
So on your note of talking about shame, you did equal for the female characters as you did for the male. Avery and Larson, you both remove those stigmas that we typically see in these teen comedies, and I just want to point that out and really appreciate that it wasn't just that you allowed this teenage girl to be dealing with sex and these issues and not making her feel ashamed or embarrassed, but also allowing the male characters to, like, as Lily said, as you were talking about, express their feelings and their vulnerability, and no one was there shaming them for it or telling them, no, that's not how we behave. So on both ends, it's really well balanced. Yeah, it's really well balanced. It's really well done.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think, sexism is done a number on both sexes. It's not just women. Like, I think that not allowing men to feel like they can express their feelings or voice their emotions is a disservice to them too, and isn't isn't super healthy. And then we wonder why like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and what the disconnect is with what we were raised very differently. But that's a whole other podcast conversation. But but the other thing I will say is, there's also a scene in which she has sex and stops.
I thought that
respectfully.
was really
and
important
to know that, like, if you're in something and you're not feeling it, you don't have to just keep going. You can be, both people can be respectful and decide that this doesn't feel right, and not have it turn into, like, again, not a shaming type of situation. Not that it's like the most comfortable situation, but I wanted to make a point of that too. I think that scene originally was like, he just comes really fast and doesn't care about how she feels. And I was like, we've seen that a lot. And I don't think this character has to be that guy. And it's more interesting to me to see this other version of it.
Well, it brings up the issue of consent, and that consent is something that can be, it should be revisited throughout the entire encounter. And at a certain point you can say, I don't want to keep doing this. And that's perfectly all right. And you're right. I can't think of another example like that scene. And it's really exciting and refreshing to see that, even though it's a difficult moment for the characters, it's a really great example to be showing.
I was telling Shai that something that I thought was refreshing about the movie was that you don't have sort of like this boy male villain,
Yeah.
Like the James Spader, who doesn't love James Spader, but James Spader in Pretty in Pink, this like the asshole.
I mean, for the record, I have said since I was a kid, Andrew McCarthy is also the villain in that movie, but that's a separate debate.
But that's a separate podcast.
It's a very separate conversation.
It's a different, but you get what I mean. Like the villain, the boy villain who's egging everybody on or whatever.
Or the mean girls or
the mean, right.
Mm-hmm.
The mean girls. And when Shai was like, well, you know, her boyfriend's not great. And I was like, yeah, but he's not a villain. He might not be great and they might not actually be in love. But I said to Shai, what was so impactful to me was when they finally do have sex, he stops because he can tell she's not having a good time. And that was like, my mind was like blown watching that scene. And in the end, he's an okay guy. He's not a bad guy. And she cannot be with him, not just because he's a dick, just because she doesn't want to be with him. And it didn't need to go there. And it kind of shows just a different way that I think we can talk about all of this for kids that are going through this now. And that scene really impacted me.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I think it's great that you were able to give us an example of how it was originally maybe thought of and how it was, you know, evolved into what we actually see in the movie. It's amazing.
I'd love to talk a little. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because the lesson she needs to learn with him is not be with a guy who doesn't treat you bad. She knows that. Right. It's that, you know, someone can be perfect on paper and you can do the math of why it should work. And then the chemistry can just not be there, or the connection is not there. And that like love and relationships and good sex are not a thing you can just like manifest by like writing some kind of equation. And that there's more to mechanics than that. So that being the lesson that she needed to learn, I felt like he can just be like a good looking, smart, high achieving, all the things she is, her male counterpart. And then it should work, but then there's just no chemistry. Yeah. By the way, spoilers. Sorry, guys. maybe listen to this podcast after you watch the movie.
We
always spoil everything.
No one people just avoid our episodes if they haven't seen it. So.
They just wait until they've seen it.
We have a nice week to promote that you that like you were on the show.
There's no excuses. If you haven't seen this movie, there's no excuses.
And that's why we're giving us some time. We'll be telling everybody. We already been telling everybody to watch it, but we'll be telling. So I love the ending, by the way. Let's just talk about the ending for a minute. I think that ending is great. It is so much more guts and it has so much more honesty and so much better modeling than so many other rom-coms. Because I've been friend zoned in my,
who hasn't?
Right? Yeah. But I'm
Becky.
Not Becky. Not Becky.
Not me.
Becky has like a long line of like very strange.
All right. We don't.
Let's talk about Becky.
But Lily and Shai definitely spend a lot of time being friend zoned by crushes.
For sure.
And I really love that they don't end up together, and that there are consequences for the way she behaves towards Larson, right? Like there's consequences for that relationship. I know people are wondering, maybe they'll end up together again one day. Maybe they won't.
Maybe they will. I always
maybe there's a sequel coming. I'm not saying they'll never be together,
but also
it's a good consequence.
Cool music, girl, seems really nice. She's not, you don't spend a lot of time with her, but there's a reason why he likes her. She's not just
a pretty face.
She's not just some pretty girl or the little red-haired girl in Charlie Brown. There's something to her too. And I think that him being able to have agency and go, or the character who is not the one with most of the control in the relationship, because whether it's the guy or the woman, I love that it's okay for him to go out and explore that. And it's not sad. I don't find the ending sad. I found the ending very fair.
Well, now that I know that they're together in real life, I feel much better.
I've gotten split feedback on it. But the thing is like if you weren't rooting for them to end up together, then I didn't do my job. You are supposed to want them to end up together.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything when they don't. But the lesson she has to learn is like you can't just you can't be so clinical about everything. People have feelings. You have to consider you have to consider everyone involved in her experiments and her explorations, and you don't learn that. She tries a big romantic gesture from like the teen movies that she's seen, but this is, even though it is a movie, for her, it's her real life. And that's not how it works. You don't get to just like, do one romantic gesture and fix 7 years of treating somebody like they're your pet. And this is as much like Larson has a real arc in the movie too, to get to a place where he realizes his own worth and has been, heartbroken too deeply to want to go there with her and just realize like, we love each other. You're amazing. I'm amazing. And we don't fit like we're better as friends. And because he has needs that she's a long way off from, like, she might be on her journey to figuring out how to be great in a relationship, but she's not where he is. So.
One of the things.
I just want to do a quick, just a quick note.
It's a little sibling headbutting happening.
No, on the note, like one of the things that helps us understand that, and that, I mean, in that it's you want them to be together, but it's okay that they're not. That's better for each of their growths. Is the scene between Avery and the sex ed teacher, where the sex ed teacher talks about she's like, good, you have one rep in.
She's the writer of the movie, correct? Is the sex ed teacher?
No, not the sex ed teacher.
Oh, not the sex ed teacher. No, the sex ed teacher is the sex ed teacher is Artemis.
It's Artemis.
Yeah. Sunny, who is amazing.
Zoe Sunny. She's just like, oh, she's so funny.
There were so many little things about this film where I was like, this is amazing. And when I saw Artemis early on in the film, I was like, yes.
I love that.
It's going to pay off.
Brilliant.
So that's a great scene.
There were more scenes with her too that I wish we kept in, but we weren't able to.
I will watch the Artemis spin-off series.
Yeah, you could just
so good.
That's
so good. You could.
I want
bonus content. Just
I want us to steer. So I don't want us to talk to you and not ask you about some of the amazing creative filmmaking things that happened.
Oh, great.
Because like, aside from the fact that we've been talking about the innovative way the story is told and how this challenges norms, it's also visually so cool. There's so many things where you're in a teen comedy, the typical thing, and then boom, you're in this world of imagination that's also storytelling. Becky, of the three of us, Becky is the one who spent the most time making films. Me spending none. Becky spending a lot of time. Beck, I feel like you would ask smarter questions about how to make about the filmmaking. Go for it.
Well, the first thing I was wondering is when we instead of having sex scenes, you cut to these gorgeous fantasy scenes. Mm-hmm. So what I'm curious about is what was on the page to how that actually came into reality. What was the relationship like between yourself, the cinematographer, the production designer? How did you come to create those scenes?
Yes. So the script had that the fantasies in them. They weren't what we shot, but the idea of some of it was the synchronized swimming was there, but there were like 14 different locations in that, like it was going through the eras and stuff, and we did not have the budget for that. So it was like, okay, how do we condense this into, we can use the synchronized swimming location twice because we can come back to it and kind of bring it full circle as part of the finale. And because that was a huge expense, and it was like, okay, if we're going to do it, let's like really like do it as much as, utilize it as much as we can. And I had a whole elaborate thing, like for the way that I had storyboarded it, like she puts her head on the pillow in her room, and then you feel water come up over her, and then you pull out and suddenly she's in the pool. And we had to do a match cut because we couldn't like get the tub to fill it up to really pull off that stunt. We just didn't have the time on this movie with this budget to do it really the way that I wanted to. But I feel like we got got a pretty great version of it, given what we had to work with. And, but yeah, that was the main, like in the beginning, we had a short prep period because we needed to shoot within a certain, like we needed to shoot February, March. And I came on in January. So then we were, yeah. So I worked on the script with Tate, and then I was hiring the key positions like my cinematographer and production designer and all that. And then 3 weeks before we started shooting, we got to meet each other in person in Syracuse and like look at the locations and figure out how we were going to actually do it. So I had rough ideas of it, and then I sat with my DP and production designer. We're like, how do we pull this off? Like, what do we need? What can we build? And then, and just, I did like a vision board sort of for visuals that I loved and was drawn to, and kind of the style that I wanted it to be. And there was like an archway that gave me the idea for the vagina tunnel, as we call it. And
good.
So good. That was so good.
I mean, it's so, and
look,
the way he is in that scene, his performance,
he's great.
He's funny.
So funny.
I have two daughters that are closer to needing to know about this stuff than not, and this is going to be on the absolute must list of things they have to watch.
Because I feel like it's either in teen movies, an awkward, not properly descriptive, just sort of very unhelpful scene, or it's cut to after.
Yeah,
they don't show you anything. And so this was funny. It was aesthetically like really fun to watch. The production there and the design and all that. And then on top of it, it was quite informative. I thought it was pretty.
So this all came together so quickly. So you had to conceptualize it, board it, and then actually build all of these set pieces and have it come together within a matter of weeks. That's incredible.
It was intense. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. It was nonstop. And we, just figuring out how, because there's 5 fantasy sequences in this movie. And normally, it's like you shoot a certain number of pages a day in a normal script. If there's no fantasies, like you can kind of account for, okay, I could probably get 6 pages a day, whatever it is. But the fantasy sequences, like just the swimming took 2 days, 1 day above water, 1 day underwater. And that eats up time out of the schedule. And then all the other fantasies, like we had like 1 day originally to do it. And I was like, there's no way. And so then we did a whole day just on the opening sequence of her walking forward while the world is moving backwards in reverse.
Oh, that's so
really,
great.
Really great. Yeah.
Thank you. So, and again, there were constraints to it. Like I would have loved to have had more movement with the camera. And we had choreographed to, like, it turned out the day of that the machine that you use to do motion control it moved at half the speed that the one that we had been planning on moved. So then you have to re-choreograph everything, and like you're doing it in reverse. You're having these extras act out their actions in the reverse order from her, and it's like it was a total like did you guys see the this is a segue, but did you guys see the blooper reel at the end?
Yes,
I was. Artemis is like, I said, fuck, is this a fuck production? I just had that moment.
Don't worry, this is a, as Lily,
this is absolutely
Lily
a fuck
F-bomb
production.
in every, I'm
going to call it that from now on, a fuck production.
A fuck production. So I was going to say it was a mind fuck, but it was, but it worked out. And so we just, then everything else was like rush, because we were trying to fit it all into a short schedule. And then we also were doing 10-hour days instead of 12-hour days because of COVID. And so we were doing this like in the middle of the Delta surge and had to test every other day, everybody, and we all wore masks the whole time.
Like it's not difficult enough to make a movie fast with a budget. Constraints, but add a pandemic.
At a pandemic.
It was challenging, but it was also like so much fun. Like it's a dream to be like, I have an idea for a vagina tunnel. What can we make that look like? And then like build it, like have people build it based off of your idea. It's like, this is my job. That's amazing. Like I get to just dream something up, and then someone's going to, like, people are going to support me in like figuring out how to make it happen. It was a dream. I feel so grateful for the opportunity.
Fantastic. So when we have our guests on, and we love and we love playing games with them, the signature Friday night movie games. And so we're gonna play. I'm gonna play one today. We're gonna play the one that most people come here to hear, which is buy, rent, or meh. We will present you with three things in a particular category. You can assign one of those values, buy, rent, or meh, which is the official rating system of this podcast. And it's rooted in the days of VHSs, right? If you really loved a movie, you'd spend $89 and own that copy of, in my case,
$89.
Army of Darkness. I don't know.
Probably like $9, which felt like $89.
Army of Darkness.
Yeah, with inflation.
Yeah, this was the 90s. Or you'd rent it. And then meh can kind of mean anything. Meh doesn't need to be negative. You have to, sort of the way you deliver your meh, you can explain it. So it's not like there's a great one, there's a middle one, and then there's meh, which can be, and then you can reserve the bomb, which is bleh. That's for something.
But bleh only means bleh. There is no other interpretation.
Bleh comes around once in a while. It doesn't always get used. So we talked a lot about the ship. I only learned that word recently, by the way, in the last couple of years. But relationships. We talked about the ship. There are so many great teen rom-com ships. We picked a few from different eras, and we're going to put three in front of you and ask you to buy, rent, and meh. So you can make one a buy, one a rent, one a meh. So the first one, Simon and Bram in Love, Simon. The spoilers for Love, Simon, by the way, everyone.
No, you're just ruining other movies too.
Yeah. Patrick Verona and Kate Stratford in 10 Things I Hate About You, which is definitely a Lily and Becky favorite. I think. And it
was featured in Sex Appeal.
And it was featured, but I really love that it was featured, because that when I was in middle school, I probably saw, I don't know, 50 times, 20 times. Yeah. I mean that.
And then one suggested by my daughter, because we recently watched the movie.
It was a great one.
Danny and Sandy, Danny Zuko and Sandy Olsen in Grease.
Sandy has a last name in Grease?
I had to look it up.
She really doesn't. It's just
I've never heard it, and I was in the play. That's funny. Okay, so I have a soft spot for Grease because I played Rizzo at the JCC theater.
Nice.
So I'm gonna buy that. Also, I had an acting teacher who played Jan. So who's the best? And then I would rent 10 Things I Hate About You. Because that one's up there for me too. And I'm actually attached to direct a movie that the writer of 10 Things I Hate About You is developing, and that's exciting. And then Kiwi Smith, shout out. And so I haven't seen Love, Simon.
Oh, you should see it.
It's so great.
It's really good.
So that's
one of
my
the few
that is just like, I haven't seen it yet.
That's one of the few that teen, I think, I wouldn't say it's so much sex, but teen like rom-coms of the last decade that are pretty good. That, and Becky introduced me to one that I also recommend, which is The Half of It. That one I really like too.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, that and Love, Simon, I feel like, and Sex Appeal would be like up there on the really
I will
good
watch
ones.
it.
Yeah, you'll like it. I think it's pretty beloved.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think those are the right answers.
I respect those answers.
They're always the right answers with whoever's here. I mean, there's a few things you could have said wrong, but not in this one. You did great. Let's talk about the Shabbos Goy, because I started watching Sex Appeal And then I said, oh, I wonder who directed this. I saw your name. Then I followed the IMDb and I stopped watching it to go watch Shabbos Goy.
Oh, wow.
Then like the moment Shabbos Goy is over, sending it to Lily and Becky and to anyone, like everyone has to watch this. Everyone has to watch this. This is amazing. And the reason why, and we've been really fixated on this on the pod for the last few years is well, first of all, it's hilarious. And you do a great job, like, again, making sex funny, but not gross or hard to watch. You know, it's really great. But you blend the Jewishness of it into this movie, and the Jewishness is hilarious and it's honest and it's true, but it is not the butt of the joke. And there are so many Jewish filmmakers. I'm not going to talk about non-Jews who representing Jews, but just Jewish filmmakers who I think they at a certain point they need to make the Jewish part cringy, right? There's like a compensation. And I didn't feel that in a minute of yours. And there's some really wacky stuff that happens in it.
Yes.
What's your approach to bringing Jewish identity into a comedy?
Yeah, I think for me, it's my approach with Judaism as well. Like I personally don't believe in the Torah literally. For me, it's more metaphoric and wonderful life lessons on how to be a good person that I happen to inherit from generations before me and cherish for that reason too. But I find that, so I don't struggle with my Jewish identity in the way that I think some other people do who maybe grew up feeling culturally Jewish, but not really understanding or wanting to necessarily learn about like where all these rules and the religion like actually comes from, like what the lessons are, what the stories are. But I studied it a lot growing up, and especially once I moved here to LA, and I had very Christian roommates who started like quoting stuff to me, and then I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not what it says. And then I'd go back and like talk to my rabbi from back home and, have discussions. And so it's always been a big part of my life. I was also in a Jewish singing group called Visions. And we like toured singing for different temples and festivals and stuff like that. And so it's always been like a big part of my life. And then my bandmate in the Wellspring, Dove, is modern Orthodox. So more observant than me. And when we toured, he couldn't play on the Sabbath, on Shabbat. And so we'd have to find a hotel really close to wherever we were playing right after sundown. And he could like walk to the sound check, but he couldn't play any instruments because he can't play. But so I was the Shabbos Goy for him. Like I would test his guitar and like, I would do all the things that he could never ask me to because I'm actually Jewish. But I understood, like, I know how it works. Right. So I just thought, we never see the Orthodox community portrayed. Like Dove and his wife Ora are the most fun people, and like have had hilarious experiences without me and together. And I was like, people like are always so surprised when they meet them to find out that they're Orthodox. And I was like, yes, because the version of that we've seen is either like Mel Brooks playing a rabbi as like a total caricature, or like what was that show, Unorthodox, or any of those shows
right, where it's like traumatic,
and very oppressive. And by the way, I think those pieces need to be made as well, because there's legitimate criticisms, but there's a whole warmth to the Orthodox community, and a humanity that we don't often see. So when I was pitching for this, I did it as part of a incubator program for women filmmakers that this director and like comedy icon Paul Feig did through his production company, and we had to pitch a 5-minute comedy about a micro community in LA. And so they picked 6 short films, and so mine was either going to be like East Side Lesbians, or the Jewish community here, and it's such a big part of LA's neighborhoods, the Pico Robertson, the shtetl, and I felt like it hadn't really been explored, and so I wanted to do that, and then it was just like, okay, what's the funniest thing that a Shabbos goy could have to turn off?
Amazing.
And I also just love the idea of bringing together these two people who would never normally interact, who are both minorities in different ways, and to bring them together in the most awkward version of like a meet cute that you could have. And
when she extends her hand with the handkerchief, I think is one of the most magnificent, hilarious. It's also so warm. I just love the warmth in that scene. And I want to say thank you for that film. It's been a weird year in particular as a Jewish person, and with and Jewish pop culture. And that film made me feel funny, right? It's about Orthodox women and a vibrator. It made me feel less alone as a Jew in this world. And
that's so nice.
And I think any Jewish person who sees that is going to feel that way. And for that, I really want to express some gratitude to you for making that. And in general, gratitude for you being here. We're almost done. And so, or the interview at least. Well, we can have an after party. We always end our show with what we call shout outs and recs. It's a little play on Parks and Recs, but it is the things that we're watching or that we want people to watch. And of course, we want to give the platform to you. Either what's next? What do you want to plug? I will just go out of my way to say again, Sex Appeal on Hulu. Everyone, if you haven't watched it already, watch it multiple times. Get those stream numbers.
Just let it stream in the background.
And,
thank you guys.
And Shabbos Goy, I think just masterful and brilliant in anything that, and the Wellspring. Check out the Wellspring. And anything that Talia Osteen is going to make, you should watch. Now, Talia, what do you recommend? Now that I've covered all yours.
Thank you so much. I mean, well, I'll say if you like it when you watch it, please rate it on Rotten Tomatoes. If you didn't like it, don't worry about it.
We have all done it.
Thank you.
That's what I say about this podcast. I say, you give us 5 stars. If you don't want to give us 5 stars, do not rate our podcast. You're not welcome to rate it. Only 5-star reviews.
I am on the record with lots of rage at Rotten Tomatoes. I created an account specifically to rate your film 5 stars.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. That's so nice. That's very kind. Oh my gosh, you guys, that's so nice. Well, thank you. And
I thought I was like so nice by writing like a cute review. And then Shai sends his review. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like something the New York Times would write. Jeez, you're going to show me up.
Oldest child. Gotta do
total it. Oldest child.
Total oldest child.
I was like, what next? Your kid's going to clear the table?
Okay, so what else can I recommend? I'm watching... so then I have no involvement with it, but I'm watching Station 11 right now. And
I've heard it's really good.
Really fascinating.
Good.
Succession is a one that I'm obsessed with.
We're big fans.
We're big. Well, Lily and I are. Becky checked out after like 2 episodes.
I have committed to rewatching it. I have a hard time watching a show where I'm not rooting for someone. And based on the first episode, I'm like, they can all go down in that helicopter. But
no, they're all horrible. But
you will. I think you slowly start.
But I'm going to revisit it. It's on. It's
somehow,
on my list.
Despite them being horrible people, you're like you shift really who you end up kind of rooting for. It's really well written and acted. And you somehow end up having empathy for these kids who are billionaires and have everything at their finger and so obnoxious, but you then see the human side of them, the vulnerable sides. But yeah, and then honestly, I really love Sex Education. I actually had not seen it before we did the movie, and
it's one of my favorite shows. I thought a lot about it. I think it's good that you didn't see it.
Yeah, it's good that you didn't see it.
Now that I've seen it, I'm glad I didn't, because I love it. It's so good.
I'm glad. I was wondering if you were a fan.
But it's very different tonally. It's very different. Like it's not, hard.
I cannot watch Sex Education with my kids in the next couple of years. I'll tell you.
No.
Sex appeal.
I don't think, especially the way this last season starts, I don't think you can ever watch that show.
Very graphic.
That first scene of the first, I was watching it on a plane, and then I was like, never mind. I don't want anybody to see me watch this. But it's a great show. There's a lot of and Hacks. I mean, there's just a lot of
Hacks. I love Hacks. Yeah.
Hacks is so good. And Talia, where can people follow you? Should they follow you?
No. Yes.
No. Where should they follow you? Because I'm sure they can follow you lots of places, but where do you want them to follow you?
Right now,
to the grocery store. Just kidding.
Posting.
That would be bad.
That would be awkward. I am mostly posting on Instagram. My handle there is @by Talia Osteen, BY Talia TALIA OSTEEN. And I'm putting some like behind the scenes stuff, and I'm just posting there for now. So that's a good place to follow me if you want to see whatever comes next. It's got some stuff percolating. And then I was just going to say to you guys, this is completely off topic, but I was listening to you guys rename like which Jewish actors you would put in roles.
Yes.
And I just want you to put on your radar, they're dear friends of mine and I love them. You mentioned Milana, but also Lisa Edelstein and Michaela Watkins.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
They're dear friends of yours?
Everything.
Yeah.
I like Michaela Watkins to me is like one
Lisa
of the
Edelstein?
most
Seriously?
brilliant. You're just buddies
Obsessed
with those two
obsessed
amazing
Michaela
women?
Watkins. I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
And Lisa
We're
Edelstein
huge
too.
fans of both of them.
Yeah.
Huge fans of both. Sorry, not to
No, they're
to
both
pick
great.
one over the other. Just
They're both great.
yes.
Oh,
I wanted Michaela was going to be the sex ed teacher, but it ended up not working out scheduling wise. But
she would have been great too.
She would have been amazing. Yeah, I'm going to work with both of them at some point.
everything she does is awesome.
She's
She's
fantastic.
so smart.
I love her and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking like I know her. I don't know her, but like she's like personally, but she's just
We've seen her.
That's so
stuff.
cool that you mentioned them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we can follow you. Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess on Twitter. Yeah, that's it.
Lily,
That's it. I mean, that's it.
Lily,
I mean, I don't
follow
really
you?
tweet, but you can follow me. Talia, don't follow me.
I
It's not
will
worth
tell
it.
if you tweet at Becky, I
Talia,
pay
don't.
attention. I will tell her to respond.
Same. I'm also on Twitter, but my handle is Chichi, CHICHI, K Gomez, GOMEZ.
Yeah,
on
you have
Twitter.
to explain this to Talia.
But
'cause
now
polite company.
Talia has to stay for
regret.
the after show. She has to stay for the after show to hear that explanation.
It's Lily's childhood nickname and
nickname,
her husband's
AKA
last name. So
It's my
yeah.
husband's last name and my childhood nickname because everybody else had middle names in our family but me. And I guess because of like I don't have one, but they do. Becky and Shai do. And so I felt left out as a kid. And I guess it's that Cuban influence. I named myself Chichi, which in Spain means vagina. So it's
and my kids
the
call
whole
her
thing.
Tia Chichi.
And then yes, to troll me, Becky's children call me Tia
Can't wait
Chichi.
to visit you this summer, and they're screaming in the street.
Tia vagina in the street. So
well, my brother's name is Yoni. And I didn't realize that also means vagina in a different language.
Amazing!
So
wow.
It's Johnny in Hebrew, but which is it's
amazing.
Yeah, we all went to Jewish day school, so we know a lot of Yonis.
Yonis, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, now like when in like meditation classes or like whatever, when people are talking about like
Oh, the
You're
yoni.
female.
The yoni.
Yeah, the yoni. Yeah.
There's
I was like,
there's a mom. There's a mom in our neighborhood that
Amazing.
is very active with yoni devices on her Instagram. Yoni things. Very. She's always updating people on the different crystal uses of them.
There you go.
Eggs.
All right.
I know how to. I might
Eggs,
need
crystal
I
eggs.
think you should stop talking about it,
I'm
Chad.
gonna stop talking about the
I
eggs.
don't think this is a good
Just
topic.
No
leave it
shame.
out.
There's no shame.
We got so
It's
close.
a safe space.
To
Safe
not,
space, exactly.
look, I anyways, thank you for that.
On that note,
I still do this show with my sisters, right?
On your
No,
yoni.
you're right.
You can follow me at Pancake and the number 4 table. That's Pancake for Table on Twitter and Instagram. All the Friday Night Movie shenanigans are at Fry Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram, or FridayNightMoviePod.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter that we promise not to send you very often. But we do have some awesome, cool merch coming that we will give away through there. We have new shirts coming, and I'm very excited about them. And check our notes for the organizations that we are supporting right now. And the theme music, which will kick in post-production, is by What Does It Eat? A huge thank you to Talia Osteen, an incredible guest, a new member of the Friday Night Movie family. Sex Appeal on Hulu, Shabbos Goy on YouTube and other places. Follow her work. We're so grateful for you being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.